everyone, it's Andrea from Movers and Bakers. Today I'm going to share with you how I make mini Victoria sponges. These are beautiful fluffy sponges filled with jam and buttercream. You are going to love them. Let's get baking. Alright, to start with, we are going to, in my stand mixer, I'm going to put my butter. This is 175 grams of butter, and as usual I will put all the quantities and the list of ingredients in the link below to my blog, so if you want to find out all the details you don't have to scribble them down now, just go and check them out later. So 175 grams of butter, that's unsalted butter at room temperature, and to that I am going to add the same amount, so 175 grams of caster sugar. Then we're going to give it a little bit of a mix together, just to cream it together and get some air into that mixture. So once your butter has mixed really well together with your sugar and you've got a really lovely, smooth, creamy mixture like that, we're going to add our eggs in. So I have 3 eggs here. I'm going to add them in one at a time and mix them in before I add the next. Egg number 2. And don't forget, as you add your eggs in, it's really important to scrape your mixture down just to make sure everything gets really well included in your mixing. Okay. And the last egg. And before I add my dry ingredients, I'm just going to give it one final scrape down just to make sure I've got all my butter and sugar mixture mixed in with my eggs. And while I do that, it's a really good time to remind you to like this video and to subscribe to my channel, just so you know every time I release one, and I really value your support. There we go. One last mix. Now, don't worry if your mixture, like mine, looks a bit curdled and a bit lumpy. It will all come together once we add the next ingredient in. To this, I have 2 more ingredients to add. I have some vanilla, so I always make sure, and it's really important that you do this, you always have to make sure you use vanilla extract and not vanilla essence. The essence is the flavor of vanilla, but the extract gives you a much better flavor and less synthetic kind of tasting. So it's a much nicer vanilla flavor. I'm going to put 2 teaspoons of this in, so we have a really lovely vanilla-y cake. And I'm going to sift in my flour. This is self-raising flour, and it's 175 grams of self-raising flour. Time to mix it all together. So I'm going to scrape my bowl down, get all that flour that flew up the sides and stuck to the sides back in the mixture. And then I'm going to turn the speed up on this and mix it on a high speed for about 10 seconds or so. And that's just going to get lots of lovely air in again and make for really lovely, light, fluffy sponges. Here we go. And that's it, that is my mixture done. Now, while I have been doing all of this, I have had my oven preheating. It's been preheating at 160 Celsius. And I also have my baking tray prepared here. Now, if you want to make these in cupcake cases, in a cupcake pan, that is absolutely fine. You can do that, or a muffin pan, a 12-hole pan works absolutely well. I've got a rather special pan here, which I absolutely adore. It's actually a straight-sided pan, so a lot of cupcake or muffin pans will be slightly angled down. They'll be wider at the top than the bottom when you look at the cakes when they're baked. But this one is a straight side, so it actually will look like little mini Victoria sponges when we're done, which I absolutely love. So this one, I will put a link again to it below this video. This one actually has lovely loose bottoms on each of the portions, so it means it's really easy to get them out as well. I absolutely adore this. I will put the details of it below, but all I've done with this to prepare it is I haven't put cases in, so I've just buttered it. I've just used my fingers and I've just buttered all of these all the way around, just to help my cake mixture not stick to it when I come to take it out of the tin once it's baked. So now it's time to put it in the tin. Now with this, it's really important that you don't overfill it, because like with cupcakes or muffins, if you overfill it, you'll end up with a mound on top and it doesn't bake quite as evenly. And you also get an explosion over the top as it comes out of the mold. So you don't want to overfill it. You want to fill it about halfway up each of the containers. That's all you want. I have an ice cream scoop just because I want to make sure I get the same amount of mixture into all of my pans. You can use 2 spoons, you can use whatever method you want. This is just my preferred way of doing it. So these are ready to go in the oven. My oven has been preheating at 160, like I said earlier, and I will bake these for about 20 minutes. If you're not sure how to check if they are done, all they will be is they will be very, very lightly golden because we're baking it at a lower temperature. They will be very lightly golden and they will be quite firm but still spring back when you press them in the middle. You can also do the toothpick test if you're not too sure. Just put a toothpick in and pull it out, and if you've got mixture in there, it needs to go back in for a couple of minutes. And I will see you on the other side to get these decorated. Okay, so my cakes are done and they have been pulled out of the oven and out of the tins and they are cooling down. So while they are cooling, it is time for us to make our buttercream. Now, you can make a Victoria sandwich, whether it's a full-size one or these mini ones. You can do it with just by whipping double cream up and adding a bit of sugar or vanilla if you want to, and have that with your jam instead. But today, because I want these to last a little bit longer than a day, I'm going to be using buttercream. If you use just double cream, you have to eat them on the day you make them because it's cream. It needs to go in the fridge, and the cakes I find aren't as good once they've been in the fridge for a while. So this is why I'm preferring to do buttercream rather than double cream, but if it's being served and eaten in one day, I will absolutely go with double cream. So to make my buttercream, I have here some unsalted butter at room temperature. I'm going to pop that in my mixer and I'm going to mix this up for about 5 minutes to get it really lovely and soft and fluffy before we add our sugar. So once your butter has gone a little bit lighter and it's really nice and soft, it's time to add our sugar. So I have here, as always when making buttercream icing, you've got double the amount of sugar to your butter. So I've got 150 grams of butter in here, so I've got 300 grams of icing sugar. So time to add in our icing sugar. So I'm going to add this in a few batches. I'm going to take this off here first actually. So I'm just going to put a few decent spoonfuls, probably about half my icing sugar mixture in. And the reason I'm spooning it in is if I just tip it all in, I'm just going to end up with a lovely big icing sugar cloud around me. So putting it in a bit more gently this way just means I'm not going to get that cloud of sugar. Okay, so that is half my sugar. Pop that back in. Now we just want to combine, so we don't want to whip it up or anything quite yet. We're just doing it to mix it all together into one buttercream mixture. So when your butter and sugar start to come together in clumps like this, you can add your next batch of icing sugar. So I'm going to do exactly the same again. I'm going to tip all of this in to my mixing bowl. And to that as well, I'm going to add a bit of extra vanilla. So I'm going to add half a teaspoon of vanilla into this as well. Time to get mixing. So just as before, I'm just going to mix it at a really low speed just to get all the icing sugar in so I don't end up with it everywhere. So once you've combined your butter and your sugars and everything's mixed together a bit like that, I'm just going to scrape my bowl down just to make sure I get all my sugar. Now, obviously, you would do this, I'm sure, anyway, but it's a good little reminder that you need to keep scraping everything down, making sure you're scooping from the bottom to make sure everything gets combined. Obviously, if you're doing this by hand, it's a lot harder, but you won't miss anything. Or if you're doing it with a handheld mixer, it's a bit different as well. But in my KitchenAid, I need to scrape everything down. Right, once I've scraped everything back down, I'm going to get all this mixture, as much of it, off on the paddle as well. And the last thing I'm going to add is a bit of milk. Now, I always use whole milk in my baking just because I find the fat content really helps with flavour. If you don't want to use whole milk, of course, that's absolutely fine. This is just what I do. So I'm going to add a tablespoon in to start with, and I just want to loosen the mixture enough that it's going to become really fluffy when I turn the speed up in a minute. So we'll start with a tablespoon's worth and see what it looks like once it's mixed in. So once it's all mixed in, you want it to be really, really soft and spreadable. And then when you whip it up, it's going to be really light and airy and beautiful. So I'm just going to scrape this down for the last time, and I'm going to make sure everything gets off the bottom. So it's all going to get mixed together. And then when I put my paddle down, I'm going to turn the speed right up and get lots of air into this beauty. Right, time for the last mix. Right, my buttercream is done. It is beautiful and pale and soft and fluffy and absolutely gorgeous. Look at this. Lovely, beautiful buttercream, all good to go. So I'm going to pipe it. You can absolutely just spread it on your cakes and that's fine, but I want to pipe it to make it look a bit prettier. So in my piping bag here, I've got a star tip. You can see it's a Wilton 199 tip, but you can use any tip that you want. So I'm just going to fill my bag up with my buttercream, ready to get doing my cake. So it's time to get doing our cake. So I'm going to grab one of my cakes and split it in half. So I'm just going to use a normal serrated knife. I find serrated is better, and just cut it as straight as you can, all the way down. Nice and easy. Look at that lovely cake inside. Right, now it's time for some jam. Now traditionally in Victoria sponges you actually would put raspberry jam in, but the vast majority of people these days will use strawberry jam instead. Today I'm going to use some Bon Maman strawberry conserve just because I love how beautiful it tastes. It's really, it tastes really fresh to me. It doesn't taste too sweet or anything like that, so it's perfect. So I'm going to spread some of this on my bottom slice, and then buttercream time. So I'm going to do one in the middle and then I'm going to pipe around the edges of it. And then all that's left to be done is to put the lid back on. So we're just going to pop it on and just give it a very gentle press just to make sure it stays on. And there you have it. There are my gorgeous little mini Victoria sponges. Now, you can, if you want, do a sprinkling of icing sugar on top. That would be absolutely beautiful if you do, or you can have it just as is. It is delicious both ways. And that is it. I am done showing you. Thank you for joining me today. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like it and hit subscribe if you have. And I shall see you next time. Happy baking.